What's up, guys? This is the Gospel According to Mark with a C. He is I, and I am he. Just taking some time to tell you exactly what's on my mind. Guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. All right, this isn't really a review. People have been asking me how I feel about this show. I'm enjoying it. You know what I mean? It's not something that is perfect. It definitely has its issues and everything. But there's one thing I specifically want to talk about here, and that is the appearance or the way that the Falcon, all right, Sam Wilson, I believe his name is presented on the show. All right, now a couple of episodes in, I was a little bit frustrated. He got pulled over by the cops or something for no apparent reason, and that's kind of a dangerous thing. I remember talking about it on the Dark Council. I don't like the victimhood of black people to be appealed to that way. Like, does things like that happen? Does it happen? Yeah, sure it does. But my thing is that for the most part, if you're talking about a superhero show, right, you probably want to encourage good relations, between black people and law enforcement. Like, there has to be a balance, you know what I mean? Like, I know what goes on out there. I've been through it, all right? So I'm not even trying to present anything differently, all right? But what I'm saying is there's just too much of that on TV, where people play into the troubled relationship between law enforcement and the black community to the point where the black community becomes enabled, or encouraged to not trust law enforcement, which is all they have in a lot of these lawless areas and neighborhoods, where they actually need to have the law. I'm not talking about defending bad cops. That's different. You have to take that on an individual basis. All right. But I had a problem with that. But this last episode really made me fall back a little bit where, let me see, John Walker, excuse me if I get the names right, the new Captain America has stumbled, all right? And he's going to have to give up the shield, all right? Spoiler alert, okay? So he's going to have to give up the shield. He probably shouldn't have had it in the first place. When Steve Rogers gave it to Sam, he told him he wanted him to have it. The reason why Sam didn't take it is because he felt like he wasn't worthy of it. Okay, now there is a complicated thing, for a person, all right? I'm going to go on and say it. For a black person to assume the mantle of Captain America is not a cut and dry thing, right? And I have a little bit of understanding on this because I told you guys a long time ago, if you've been rocking with me long enough, you know that I come from a law enforcement family. My father was a highly decorated officer. My brother was a highly decorated officer. My cousin, my mother was in the court system. My sister practices law. It's like, so I have always understood, the dynamic of picking up the shield, for example, all right? It's not even metaphorically speaking, like literally. One of the stories that my mom used to tell me all the time was how she was afraid for my father because he became a cop during the civil unrest. Black Panthers were shooting cops on the street, and my father was wearing that uniform. My mom would be scared. He was so young and everything. And he had to deal with all of the dynamics, that led up to the civil rights movement. Like, there were so many legitimate grievances that the people had, that were marching, that were demonstrating, that were rioting and stuff. But here he was, a law officer charged to keep the peace, and make the proper arrests as necessary. So my father's a very conscientious man. So I knew that this is something that probably weighed very heavily on him. Every time he had to put on that shield, he had to put on the uniform, the hat, the utility belt that he used to whoop my ass with, and, the gun and everything. He had to be ready every single day, to serve a law, to serve a country that in those turbulent times he knew was not always on his side. You know what I mean? So when I saw that on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I saw what Sam was going through, a lot of people are going to think that that's just empty virtue signaling, but I'm doing this video because I want you to understand there is actually a very legitimate issue that they were facing with that episode. And I have to applaud them because I feel like it was done quietly. It wasn't done over the top. And unless you've been through something like that, you wouldn't understand exactly what they were going for. So I don't blame people who didn't get it who were mad about that episode, but I very quietly appreciated that episode. I watched it very intently to see if they were going to make a false move, and they really didn't. I'm not saying it was perfect, but when they got to the old black guy, the original super soldier, or one of the original super soldiers, and he was talking about the Tuskegee Airmen. I've met the Tuskegee Airmen, and I've spoken to them, and I know how complicated it was. They were proud to fight for their country, but they couldn't deny that when they came back from fighting their country, they weren't always treated properly. You know what I mean? It's like my grandfather talked about that as well. And of course later on we saw that go across racial lines with our Vietnam vets. A lot of them gave everything. I don't care what race they were. And they came home. You can see some of them still sleeping on the corners in the cities. So the country has not always cared for their vets. And when you put the racial aspect on it, it's definitely something that shouldn't be ignored. You know what I mean? So I took the metaphor of what Sam was talking about, and I put it on my father, my grandfather, black cops in America and stuff. And I have to give it to them. It wasn't the most engaging episode. It was way too quiet in certain places and stuff. But I feel like they tackled something in a very, very honest way. And a way, honestly, I didn't think that Hollywood was capable of actually identifying. You know what I mean? So like I said, I can see where a lot of people would be turned off by it. But as the son of a law enforcement officer, coming from a law enforcement family, I can promise you that the issues that they were tackling ring true. You know what I mean? And I have to give it to them about the way they tackled it in this particular episode. I was impressed. So, you guys, I'm trying to challenge you to see it from a different point of view. If you want to get in the comment section and start bombing it out, talking about virtue signaling and stuff, you can do that. But it's very important, guys, to understand virtue signaling and identity politics. It's a real thing that's destroying the creativity of our entertainment. But it's not, you have to be able to identify it correctly and apply it correctly. You just can't see it as every spark in the dark. You know what I mean? Sometimes there really is something to what they're trying to express. And in my opinion, what I saw with the Falcon and Winter Soldier in this past episode, I think that they nailed what they were going for. I recognized it and I appreciated it. So, like I said, get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about it. If you didn't get it, or if you feel like you did get it and I didn't get it, although I know how I feel about this, guys. It really did impress me. But like I said, share your opinions. As always, you can like, you can share, you can subscribe, you can catch me on Twitter. All right, guys, thank you for listening. I'll catch you on the next one. This is The Gospel According to Mark with a C. Rock on.